White fat melting into gold. That's tallow, rendered animal fat. And right now, it's $1 billion trend. It's in your fryer, it's in $50 skincare jars, it's all over your feed, sold to you as a 2026 breakthrough. But the Plains nations of North America were rendering this exact fat from buffalo 400 years ago, and they used it for almost everything the internet is just now rediscovering. They cooked with it, they survived winters on it, and they rubbed it into their skin against the wind and the cold, which is the same thing influencers are telling you to do today, like they invented it. They call it beef tallow now. On the Plains, it was buffalo tallow. That's the tallow method. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll understand why a lean meat people couldn't have survived without this fat, the skincare science that actually holds up, and the honest truth about the health claims that nobody selling it to you will say out loud. Let's talk about what's being sold to you. Tallow is having the biggest moment of any fat in decades. Restaurants are switching their fryers to it. Chip brands are bragging about it on the bag. There are $30 and $40 whipped tallow bombs for your face, and a wave of influencers calling it a superfood, an anti-aging miracle, the answer to seed oils. And some of that, I'll show you, is genuinely backed by science. But a lot of it is a rendered fat that cost almost nothing being sold back to you as a luxury breakthrough. The people who actually mastered this used every scrap of it as food, medicine, and skin balm, because wasting it was unthinkable, not because it came in a designer jar. So let's go back to the people who mastered it. The Plains nations, the Lakota, the Blackfoot, the Cheyenne, and others built their entire lives around the American buffalo. And the single most important thing to understand is that buffalo meat is extremely lean, only about 2% fat. And here's the trap in that. If you try to live on lean meat alone, you starve, even with a full stomach. It's a real condition, sometimes called protein poisoning. Your body cannot run on protein without enough fat to burn. So the fat wasn't a bonus, it was survival. And the richest, most concentrated fat on the animal was the hard fat around the kidneys and loins, which they rendered down into tallow. That rendered fat was the key to the most important food they made. Pemmican was dried buffalo meat pounded to powder and mixed with rendered tallow, roughly half and half by weight, sometimes with dried berries. It carried around 3,500 calories per pound. It kept for years without spoiling because the fat sealed out air and moisture, and it was light enough to carry on the move. One buffalo gave them roughly 50 pounds of dried meat and 50 pounds of tallow, which is exactly why the recipe was 1-to-1. The animal itself told them the ratio. And there's a detail I love, because it makes the whole thing real. A first-hand account from the 1890s describes buffalo tallow as whiter and softer than beef tallow, with a mild, pleasant taste, and says that in cold weather they drank it hot, like broth. Picture that. Not choking down grease to survive, but sipping warm rendered fat like a hot drink on a freezing plain, because when your body is burning everything just to stay warm, that fat is the most valuable fuel you have. Now here's something you can feel right now, and it explains the trend. Rub a tiny bit of butter or any animal fat between your fingers, then really work it into the back of your hand for a few seconds. Notice how, after a moment, it stops feeling greasy and just absorbs, like your skin drank it. That is not a coincidence. The fats in animal tallow are almost the same fats your own skin makes. And that is the entire reason the skincare trend actually works, which is where the real science comes in. Your skin makes an oil called sebum, and tallow's fatty acid profile is startlingly close to it. Human sebum is roughly 57% oleic acid. Grass-fed tallow is around 47%. Both are heavy in palmitic acid. The match is so close that your skin doesn't treat tallow like a foreign product sitting on top. It absorbs it and uses those fats to rebuild its own barrier. Think back to that white fat melting into gold at the start. That same rendered fat, cooled and whipped, is what goes onto the skin. That's why tallow doesn't leave the greasy film that something like coconut oil does. On top of that, tallow carries the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K inside the fat itself, not sprayed on as synthetic isolates, and grass-fed tallow carries anti-inflammatory compounds that people with eczema and rosacea genuinely respond to. So when the plains rubbed buffalo fat into wind-burned skin, they weren't improvising. They were putting back the exact fats skin is built from. The skincare science here is real, and it's the strong part of the story. But now I have to be straight with you about the part that isn't so clean, because nobody selling tallow will say this out loud. And this is the exact question you actually came here wondering about. So here's the honest answer. The claim that cooking with tallow is healthier for your heart than seed oils, that is genuinely contested, and the science does not clearly back it. Tallow is about half saturated fat, and its main saturated fat, palmitic acid, reliably raises LDL cholesterol, the kind linked to heart disease. Mainstream heart doctors and the American Heart Association say there's no good evidence that tallow is better for your heart than plant oils, and a tablespoon of it is already about a third of the day's recommended saturated fat. Now, tallow does have real advantages as a cooking fat. It's extremely stable at high heat and doesn't break down and oxidize the way fragile seed oils can when you fry in them. So it's a fine, traditional, stable fat to cook with in moderation. But anyone telling you it's a heart health miracle or that seed oils are poison and tallow is the cure is skating right past a real scientific disagreement and usually selling you something. Use it, cook with it, enjoy it. Just don't believe it's medicine. So let's clear up the myths, because this food is buried under them right now. The biggest one is that putting tallow on your skin is some new wellness discovery. It's the opposite. Rendered buffalo fat was rubbed into skin against sun, wind, and cold for centuries on the plains, and it was even sold as a commercial skin salve back in the 1800s. TikTok didn't discover tallow skincare. It rediscovered it, and the reason it works was true the whole time. The second myth is the health miracle framing we just covered, real for skin, contested for your heart. And the third myth is that the plains lived on lean buffalo steak. They couldn't have. Lean meat without fat will starve you, which is the entire reason tallow existed, why pemmican was half fat, and why they prized the fat above almost everything else on the animal. Which brings us to what we actually lost. We didn't lose tallow. It's back, in jars, at a premium. What we lost is the thinking behind it. To the plains, that rendered fat was food, cooking oil, a hot winter drink, waterproofing, hair grease, and skin medicine, all from one substance, because nothing from the buffalo was ever wasted. It was the opposite of a single-use luxury product. It was a whole animal ethic that treated every part as sacred and useful. We turned one piece of that into a $40 jar and called it innovation, and left the philosophy behind. So here's how you actually make it and use it. Get about 2 pounds of beef suet. That's the hard fat from around the kidneys, from a butcher or farmer's market. Grass-fed if you can, because that's where the vitamins and the good fats are. Cut it small or have it ground. Then render it low and slow in a slow cooker on low or an oven around 200 degrees for a few hours. Here's what you're watching for. The fat slowly melts into a clear golden liquid, and the little solid bits sink and turn crisp and brown. When most of it is liquid and those bits have browned and dropped, it's done. Don't rush it with a high heat, because scorching it ruins the flavor and the shelf life. Strain the liquid through cheesecloth to catch every solid bit, because leftover bits hold moisture and make it spoil. Then let it cool, and it sets into a creamy, pale, off-white solid. If it's clean-smelling and firm and pale, you did it right. Gray or off-smelling means it wasn't strained or it was overheated. Now you've got 3 ways to use it. 1. Cooking. It's excellent and stable for high heat frying and searing, in moderation. 2. Skincare, and here's how to actually make the balm people are paying $40 for. Take about a cup of your cooled rendered tallow, add a couple tablespoons of a lighter oil like olive or jojoba, and if you want, a few drops of an essential oil like lavender. Whip it with a hand mixer for a few minutes and watch for the change. It goes from a dense yellowish solid to a pale, light, fluffy whip that looks almost like frosting. That fluffy texture is your sign it's ready. Smooth the thinnest layer onto slightly damp skin and patch test on your inner arm first, because it's rich and a few skin types find it too much. Here's what to expect. For the first minute, it feels like an oil. Then it sinks in and your skin just feels soft and sealed, not greasy, and a little goes a very long way. 3. The historical move. Mix it 1-to-1 with powdered dried meat and a few dried berries, and you've just made pemmican, the original energy bar. Where people go wrong, so you don't. Rendering too hot and scorching it. Not straining out the solids, which makes it spoil. Slathering it on skin too thick instead of a thin layer on damp skin. And believing the heart health hype instead of treating it as what it is, a good, stable, traditional fat. White buffalo fat, melted over a fire and rubbed into cracked skin on a freezing plain, 400 years before a single influencer called it a discovery. The Plains nations knew what this fat was worth because their lives ran on it, every part of it, wasting nothing. Today, it's a billion-dollar trend that mostly forgot where it came from and mostly won't tell you the honest truth about what it does and doesn't do. Now you know both. The buffalo are coming back to the plains, and so, it turns out, is the fat. If this changed how you think about that jar of tallow, subscribe, because we're breaking down the real fuel behind these cultures, one food at a time. And tell me in the comments, what ancient diet or method do you want broken down next? I'm reading them, and the best ones become the next video.